The Chicago Bulls, despite playing with some heart, end up just getting outworked in a major way on the rebounding side of the ball, and the Bulls can't take care of the ball, which leads to a loss to the Toronto Raptors. A game in which, if the Bulls would have won, would have given them a tiebreaker over 3 out of the 4 current teams slated to be in the play-in. We're going to talk about what went into that loss and the game tonight against the Detroit Pistons right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
All right, Bulls fans, welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host here, Haize, holding it down. And so, the Bulls lost a tough game against the Toronto Raptors, a game in which, though, even though they lost, can't really say that they didn't show heart and energy. They just got simply outworked. When you look at the difference in turnovers, for the Chicago Bulls, the Bulls had 19 turnovers in this game. Keep in mind, that is higher than the Bulls' last 2 games combined when it comes to turnovers. The Toronto Raptors had 19 offensive rebounds to the Chicago Bulls' 6 offensive rebounds. That gave the Toronto Raptors so many second chance opportunities. And if you watch this game, you would see that this was a game that, the Bulls would play pretty initial defense, and then the Toronto Raptors would get the offensive rebound, sometimes take a bad shot, and then get another offensive rebound. And then at some point, the Chicago Bulls defense was just out of place due to the number of offensive rebounds the Toronto Raptors were getting, and it led to easy second chance shots for the Toronto Raptors eventually. When you give a team 3 and 4 chances per possession, it's not going to go well for you, right? And that was indicated by the number of shot discrepancies. The Toronto Raptors took 94 shots in this game. The Chicago Bulls only took 71. And I'm sure about half of those could come from the second chance opportunities that they got. The Bulls just did not take care of business. And like I said, in that area, I'm putting a lot of that on head coach Billy Donovan because he did not make any adjustments. You see your team is struggling. And the biggest thing that they're struggling with, because they're playing pretty good defense, they're shooting the ball pretty well. We shot the ball 52% in this game and 40% from the three-point line. So we were taking care of business on that area. What was killing us was the rebounding side of the ball. And to keep Alex Caruso in there, especially on Pascal Siakam, which Caruso tried. Caruso fought. It wasn't like Caruso wasn't giving effort, but sometimes, just like what we said with Javonte Green, sometimes the height thing just ends up evening out, and it's something that you can't overcome. And that's what the Chicago Bulls ran into last night against the Toronto Raptors. And it sucks because that was a win that we desperately needed. I came into this game talking about the importance of that tiebreaker, especially with how tight that play-in race could be, that the Bulls have to do one of 2 things. They either had to try to get all the tiebreakers, which help them move them up the standings, but they also have to keep winning. Now, I know in the initial post-game live stream, I labeled it the Pat Bev effect wore off. And the real thing is that was more tongue-in-cheek because we only had 2 games. Like I said before, it's really too early to say any type of effect is true when you're 2 games in. And then now 3 games in, and now you have people, the Pat Bev thing was all fake. We don't know yet, right? This team has played 3 games since the All-Star break. We're 2-1. We got 3 more games this week. Let's see how the Chicago Bulls finish this week out. But I tell you what, the work in this game that the Bulls did, as far as fighting on the defensive end, I pretty much like when you look at the Toronto Raptors shot 40% from the field, 35% from 3-point range. And the only difference is they just had more opportunities to shoot the ball. So, those are some of the things you want to look at. Yeah, the Bulls defense, especially down the stretch, they got out of their offense a little bit. All those things definitely hurt the team in this game. And at some point, when you're playing a game and you run out of luck, and the Bulls ran out of, no matter how solid their defense they were playing last night was, no matter how well they were shooting when they actually got to take shots, it's too much to overcome when you're allowing a team that many offensive rebounds. And really, if we're just being honest, Billy Donovan just got outcoached by Nick Nurse. That's just what it was, just plain and simple. And it's not even any room for argument in that. Billy Donovan got outcoached, and it's something that's always going to plague us in playoff atmosphere type games. And if you saw the vibe of this game and how the Toronto Raptors came out, this was a game with the absolute atmosphere of a playing game. And so when you get into those situations, Billy Donovan has to be on point with coaching, and your players have to be on point with execution, because we all know Billy struggles at making quick adjustments to things, and he also falls in love with lineups. And that's what we had with this Alex Caruso at the 4 thing. Billy Donovan has fell in love with this new rotation that he came up with, and he didn't come up off that rotation nearly enough, and it hurt the team in this game drastically. And the Bulls just got to play a better game overall when it comes to that. They got to lock in. We need more from DeMar and Zach as well than what we got in that game. Now, I'll get it. A lot of that was by nature of the how suffocating the Toronto Raptors defense can be, but you got to be better in this game. Vooch, again, good scoring wise, didn't have the best night on the boards. That's not completely on him when we don't box out things like that. It was a lot to win into this game. That was honestly extremely frustrating. And it at the end of the day, the Bulls need to look at this, and they need to be the ones frustrated by this. They need to be the ones who come out now with some energy against the Detroit Pistons and take care of business. And that gets us to our next topic. Tonight we face the Detroit Pistons. It's game day again. So, and with that said, the Bulls, they cannot allow themselves to get caught up in the thing of it's a back-to-back, right? You understand every player on this team, the coach, everyone has said how important this last stretch of the season is if you want to have the playoffs, how much you have to treat every game with a sense of urgency. I need you guys to dig in and find the energy tonight. The lack of energy on a back-to-back excuse, you ain't got the room for that. Not now, not when your playoff lives are at stake. And you need to come in with a defensive effort. Does Billy Donovan make a change to the lineup? Yeah, the Detroit Pistons have some size, maybe not to the level that the Toronto Raptors did. But again, does Billy Donovan maybe look at something different and see what – we haven't even got to look to see what Pat Bev and Patrick Williams could look like out there together, much similar to we didn't get to look at Lonzo and Patrick Williams out there together very much before Patrick Williams went down with injury, and then Lonzo went down with injury when he was out. I do think that Pat Bev, in the way that he directs the offense, could help get Pat Bev, the way that he operates the offense could help get Patrick Williams a little bit more engaged in the game and things like that. So I want to take a look at what that lineup looks like. But the thing is I don't know if Billy Donovan is going to come up off this lineup anytime soon. On the live stream, we call Billy Donovan No Bag Billy, because Billy has no bag when it comes to his coaching philosophies. It's very straightforward. He falls in love. He runs a simplistic offense, an efficient defense at times, and he doesn't really adjust from that. He doesn't really make very many changes. He doesn't get that creative in what he does. Now, some people could say that he got creative with this lineup of Alex Caruso and Pat Bev, because who would have thought that would have been the lineup? But I don't know, man. I get it. You went with hustle over size when we needed size. And sometimes hustle is going to outwork it, but you could only hustle so much. And the amount of size that the Toronto Raptors has was just tough. But to get back into this Detroit Pistons game, I need to see Zach LaVine looking like the elite offensive player that he can be again. We need Zach. We need DeMar to be locked in. I need the Bulls to come in and take care of business in a way in this one that they put the Detroit Pistons away and our starters can get some rest in the fourth quarter. If you're tired and it's the second night of a back-to-back, come in, take care of business, then go sit down. That's what we need from the Chicago Bulls team tonight, because, listen, the Bulls now have 20 games left on the season, and they're going to have an 80 to 85 win percentage if they want to have a hope of making sure that they get into that play-in for sure. Because I tell you what, a lot of teams are winning, and so when the teams above you win, it means that you got to win that much more, and this team needs to come in locked in against the Detroit Pistons tonight. We can't have any excuses for a down game. We can't have any excuses for lack of execution. We can't have any excuses for not being able to pass the ball and hold on to the ball and take care of the ball. Hit your open shots. We need role players to step up. All the things that have been true for the whole entirety of the Chicago Bulls season still remains true. The Bulls have to take care of business. It's not an if anymore. It's not a can we. It's you need to, right? It's a need at this point. The season's almost up. Like I said, we got 6 weeks left and we're halfway through that first week. And with this last 6 weeks of the seasons, the Bulls have to dig in and figure it out. And you can't allow these inferior opponents anymore to get to you. The Detroit Pistons have 15 wins on the season. I need the Bulls to come in here and take care of business. If you want to be that playoff team, playoff teams take care of the teams that are beneath them in the standings. You got to take care of business tonight. And the Detroit Pistons have their share of injuries as well. Isaiah Stewart's out. Bojan is still on the day-to-day list, things like that. Jalen Duren's still out. Cade Cunningham's out. They are missing players. The Bulls need to come in. Don't let this young team come in and outwork you because of energy again. Do not allow another team to do that. The Bulls got to come out. They have to execute tonight against the Detroit Pistons, and we'll be locked in here on our pregame, halftime, and post-game shows covering it all. And hopefully these Bulls take care of business. Now, before we go, we got a couple of other things to talk about. Now, I had a video yesterday after Goran Dragic got released by the Chicago Bulls, got waived, and I presented the question on, all right, does this mean that the Bulls are going to go after someone, or is this a cost-cutting measure by an ownership group that we know that tries to save money? They saved $1.8 million on Goran Dragic's contract by cutting him. We're now $1.2 million below the luxury tax. Will the Bulls make a signing to help this team? When you look at what happened last night, and a lot of people afterwards said, oh, well, that means this is why we need to fill that roster slot with size, with this, with that. And the way that I look at it is this, man. Yeah, there's some people out there the Bulls could go after to help with that, but do we really trust Billy Donovan to use those players, right? Like, it's not like Goran Dragic was getting minutes, and now all of a sudden we have this gap of minutes. Dalen Terry isn't getting minutes. Terry Taylor isn't getting minutes either, and he's a player that he excels at rebounding. He wasn't even active last night. Marko Simonovic has not gotten any tick this season. So I sit at this place and I wonder, are the Bulls really going to make a move there? And we'll know pretty quickly. The Bulls would have to sign them pretty quickly if they want them to be playoff eligible. But I'm just worried that this team at a time like this, did you still make another cost-cutting move? Now, granted, was Goran going to come back? The injury that's kept him out for about half this month already. There's some questions there, but I just look at it and say, all right, Bulls, what do you got, right? What are you trying to pull out your sleeve? Are you even trying to do anything? Or is this, again, just the Reinsdorf? And we'll see. If the Bulls try to add something that's going to be a back end of the bench player, I hear the names Melo, I hear the DeMarcus Cousins, I hear the Dwight Howards and everything that everybody wants to bring up. But my biggest thing is those players have been out there all this season, right? The Nerlens Noel, who just became available, definitely when you look at like some of his advanced analytics on his shot blocking and rim protection, but then if you watch the games, you know that doesn't always come out in a meaningful way for him. And I'm looking at these names, especially the veteran names that have been out there all season. And if the Bulls really wanted them or thought they were going to help them their team, I feel like they've been out there all season. They could have brought them in easily. And then the Nerlens Noel of it all, I can see a world in which I can convince myself that Nerlens Noel is a solid pickup for the Bulls. But then we get to the place of, is Billy Donovan even going to use that player in that case? And that is the biggest question and concern around that, right? Is that we have a head coach that seemingly, and I understand, Javonte Green's a hustler, Alex Caruso is a hustler, but you have to be willing to use the size when you need size or get creative with what you do. And I don't know if I trust Billy Donovan to go in and do anything different than what he has been doing. Now, if he does, right, if the Bulls do make an acquisition and that acquisition is like perfectly fit and molded for whatever the Bulls need, whether it's a shooter, whether it's a shot blocker, whatever it is, I mean, you would hope that you could trust your head coach to use something if you need that in a game. And that's what the Bulls may be going after with this open spot. It's not necessarily, one player over the other, but something that the Bulls can just in their toolbox go to when a specific matchup calls for it. So, we'll see. There's quite a few players out there that could be interesting for the Chicago Bulls in those cases. I just don't know if I necessarily trust that. And so, we'll see. We'll see. And but that's it. That's it for today's episode, man. Hopefully these Bulls come out with much better effort, much better focus tonight against the Detroit Pistons, and we can be talking about a win next time rather than a tough loss for the Chicago Bulls. But anyway, you can follow the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related because of you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.